Good morning. The May 2nd, 2016 meeting of the Board of Estimate is now called to order. Uh, I mean, the March 2nd, 2016 meeting of the Board of Estimate is now called to order. In the interest of promoting the order and efficiencies of these hearings, persons who are disruptive to the hearing will be asked to leave the hearing room immediately. Meetings of the Board of Estimate are open to the public for the duration of the meeting. The hearing room must be vacated at the conclusion of the meeting. Failure to comply may result in a charge of trespassing. Madam Deputy Controller, are there any corrections, additions, or deferrals on the agenda?
Good morning. For today's agenda, we have a correction on page 15. The correction is in the background explanation in paragraph 2, line 1. It currently has Frederick County Police Department. Please delete the word county after Frederick and insert before Frederick, city of. That sentence will then read, under the terms of this agreement, the department or the or the city of Frederick Police Department may request personnel and equipment from the chief of the other jurisdiction in the event local resources are insufficient to meet public safety requirements, period. In addition, the board received a supplemental protest for pages 51 to 52 from the Upton Historic Marble Hill Preservation Compliance Board. That item is being deferred, so therefore the protest will not be heard this week. Again, pages 51 and 52 will be deferred for 1 week. Also being deferred are pages 87 to 90. I have the following abstentions and no votes to report. For the Honorable Mayor Rawlings Blake, there are no abstentions. For the Honorable President Young, he will abstain on page 91, as well as the President will vote no on the following items. Page 68, page 69, pages 70 to 71, pages 72 to 73, page 75, and page 77. The Honorable Comptroller Pratt will abstain on page 93, items 1 and 2. As a result of the deferral, the only item remaining on the non-routine agenda is pages 83 to 84, items 9 and 10. Mr. President, members of the board, those are the corrections, the one supplemental protest, the items that are being deferred for this week, as well as the abstentions and the no votes that have been reported. Thank you.
Thank you. I will direct the board's members' attention to the memorandum from my office dated February the 29th, 2016. Identifying matters to be considered as routine agenda items together with any correction and additions that have been noted by the Deputy Controller. I will entertain a motion to approve all of the items contained on the routine agenda.
Move approval of all items on the routine agenda.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 All opposed, nay. The motion carried. The routine agenda has been adopted. The first item on the non-routine agenda can be found on page 83, item 9. Recommendation for contract awards rejection. WC 1342, urgent need metering infrastructure repair and replacement. Various locations. Will the parties please come forward? Okay.
Good morning. Mike Mullen from the Law Department. Mr. President, Madam Mayor, Madam Comptroller, honorable members of the board. I'd like to just briefly summarize what Mr. Shapiro testified to last week and then give the board a little bit of federal procurement regulations that might be of some assistance in making a decision today.
Before you get started,
Yes, sir.
is Attorney Smith here? Okay.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
There's no mention in the procurement that Itron subs, those subs that are subcontractors to Itron, would not be allowed to bid on subsequent city repair contracts. In like form, there's no restriction in the Itron solicitation that its subs would be prevented from working on later repair work. So on both the solicitation from when we obtained the Itron contract and then here in the Spinello bid that we're seeking award for. There's no prohibition against any of the subs working for Itron to bid on this type of work. There's no proof of any effect that Spinello's knowledge, which is very limited, by the way, I think the testimony was clear on that last week, there's been no proof that there was any effect from that knowledge on the pricing that it put into this bid. The knowledge is generic. There's no knowledge of what Spinello would find when it got, excuse me, I'm losing my voice, when it would find when it gets into the field. And we know from Mr. Shapiro's testimony that there are over 150,000 locations that have not yet been scouted, so no one knows what's in that meter vault. We don't know the condition there. Spinello does not know what amount of that work it will be getting, where, and when if they did know, they're not going to know what's in the field because no one's looked at it yet. So they have no way of knowing what will be needed in the way of repairs, which makes their knowledge generic, not specific, nothing that could be used to have an impact on price. This is a line item bid. There were quantities set by the city, and what we were seeking prices on are generic construction items and construction work. I mean, things like 750 cubic yards of hot mix asphalt. We asked for a price on that, and we told them exactly how many cubic yards we were looking for a price on. And there's many other items in the bid that are just like that. All three companies have been working on water meter contracts and are very experienced contractors. They all know what these prices are. There's nothing new here. They know exactly what is entailed in fixing these vaults. They know what they'll find when they get there. They know what they have to do. The other allegation was that Spinello can control what work it gets, and I think Mr. Shapiro detailed that quite carefully and fully, that there's a process in place by which the city watches over the whole process from start to finish. Spinello has no ability, or in this case Metro that's doing the work now, has no ability to just go ahead and do work. That has to be approved by the city. The city is overseeing the entire process, and if the work is not needed, it's not going to be done. The other allegation was that there is some kind of a possibility that Spinello would defer work for the city contract in favor of the Itron contract. And quite frankly, there's just simply no economic incentive for them to do that. If they were to do that, and Mr. Shapiro explained how that really can't occur because under the Spinello contract, they have a week or so to get the work done, and under the Itron contract, there's a 6-month delay. Okay, so and then Spinello would not be paid. They'd be breaching their contract. So without anything more than speculation, really, there's nothing to base an award on. And I can go into some of the federal regulations if you would like me to do that. No.
Good morning, Neil Duke on behalf of Metra Industries. Good morning to the board. Also here on behalf of Metra Industries is Mr. Robert DePonte, who's one of the executives of the company. Without rehashing all of last week and relitigating last week, because I know the board's time is important, and I suspect that the testimony has been stated ad nauseum at this point, a couple of quick follow-up points from last week and also from this morning's testimony. I think from last week we've articulated the basis of our concern, and I think the board, we thank the board for its understanding and its decision last week to defer the decision until this week, until more time could be accumulated to actually assess what to do. Some of the things that we pointed out last week were the issues of the conflict, also the competitive advantage that may have been occasioned by virtue of the relationships in this particular contract for Water Contract 1342. And also, one of the points that was raised last week was how grossly disproportionate or out of whack the actual bids were, especially as it related to the engineer's estimates. I believe the testimony from either Mr. Mullen or Mr. Shapiro last week was that the winning bid, in this case Spinello, was some 42% below the engineer's estimates, which I think raised a few red flags, not only amongst the other contractors, but amongst the board themselves, itself rather. So the recommendation that I had last week, and I think this week applies equally, is that perhaps the board is best served by taking a step back, investigating the underlying facts and basis for the award, and giving some due consideration to perhaps reletting the contract, or rebidding the contract rather, with additional information being available to all of the competitive bidders, all of the companies that would be seeking the work, such that we wouldn't have the issues involved with potential competitive advantages and the sort. And I'll close with this. Although I think the contracts are coined as urgent need contracts, quite frankly, I think under contracts, water contracts 1307, 1308, 1309, and 1310, much of the work is being done. There's no problem with the work being done, and I think the city is benefiting from not only efficient work being accomplished at this point in time, but also a continuity of contractual services from the folks who are actually providing the work here in Baltimore City. So with that said, I think the board has a full set of the facts at this point, but I would certainly yield to council to add additional emphasis to the points already raised.
You have to speak in the mic. You have identify yourself.
Edward Smith Jr., with your permission, Mr. President, of course. Thank you very much, Mr. Duke. Mr. Duke and I agree in all respects. We do, however, believe that the next lowest bidder should get the contract, as it seems to be in our obvious interest to do so. We would suggest, however, as Mr. Duke has pointed out, that there was a competitive bid that was taken advantage of in this particular situation by the facts that Mr. Duke sets forth. With respect to R.E. Harrington is a capable, able, and ready contractor who can step in and who can do the work that is required on an emergency basis or thereafter, if he's given the opportunity to do so, and if those things which have already inured to the benefit of Spinello are out of the way. And that's the only way we can do it. In all fairness to the situation as it relates to R.E. Harrington, as it relates to the citizens of the city of Baltimore, who have obviously their interest at stake here as it relates to a myriad of issues. Once before, I withdrew my motion for recusal, as the city solicitor has indicated earlier, and now that you've had the opportunity to look at everything that's involved in this, as Madam Mayor has asked us to reconvene today, of course, I would have to renew it at some point without prejudice, and would do so at this juncture. Thank you very much.
If I may, I think the motion would be on the issue of recusal. I would make a motion that we deny his request to recuse both the city solicitor and the DPW director.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion carries. Anything else?
Unless you have any questions.
Nothing else on behalf of Metro Industries, but we do want to thank the board for its attention and its time and its deliberation over the process. It's good to see you all.
Mr. President, thank you, and thank you, Madam Mayor, for making that motion. It does sort of seal the record as it is, and we do appreciate it. No, there would be nothing else other than we ask that the Board of Estimates do the right thing for this city and for its citizens and for the people who depend on it to do so in fairness to all parties. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll entertain a motion.
I would move that we deny the two bid protests and approve the award as originally recommended, based not only on the facts that we've heard, but on the pretty clear and applicable by analogy federal law that pretty extreme circumstances have to be, and not speculative, but actual facts have to be demonstrated to disqualify a low bidder on the grounds that it had knowledge or information or expertise that perhaps the others didn't have quite as robustly. I think the law is pretty clear, so I would move that we deny the protest.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. The motion carries. As there been no more business before this board, the meeting will recess until bid opening at 12 noon. Thank you.
Good afternoon. The Board of Estimates is now in session for the receiving and opening of bids. We have one addendum for today. TR 13321, Downtown Bicycle Network. Please change the bid due date from March 2nd to March 23rd, 2016.
Hearing no objection, so ordered.
R RP 15818R, office trailer relocation to Gwynns Falls Park Maintenance Yard. No bids were received. Excuse me. GS 15813RR, MICU building envelope improvements. A bid bond is required if the amount is over $100,000. Hascon LLC with a bid bond. $1,478,000. Hascon is HASCON. I'm sorry. Thank you. Commercial Interiors, Inc., doing business as Commercial Construction LLC with a bid bond. $2,020,000. Triunfo Builders, Inc., with a bid bond. $1,861,000. JLN Construction Services LLC with a bid bond. $2,450,000. I make a motion that we refer the bid of Nichols Contracting, Inc. to the Law Department for review.
Second.
All in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
The matter having been properly moved and second is referred to the Law Department for review.
Okay, there being no further business, we are adjourned. Thank you.
These bids to the Department of General Services for tabulation and report.
Okay, I apologize. We've made the referral. The board is now adjourned. Thank you.